And welcome to this Wednesday edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForrest. Scheduled to be joined here in a few minutes by the great Troy West, and we'll get some selections. Have two NBA play-in tournament games tonight. One involving what is, for me, the hometown team, the Miami Heat, on the road against the Chicago Bulls. The line sitting there at +1 on a hook, looks like, in favor of Chicago. So you're getting a point and a half if you bet the Miami Heat. Certainly figures to be a competitive ball game, as evidenced by the relatively small margin of the point spread. You don't need to have a genius point that out to you. And then the other game involving the Dallas Mavericks, which is kind of interesting. The Dallas Mavericks the Dallas Mavericks are getting 4.5 points tonight in their matchup, as the Dallas Mavericks have to take on the Sacramento Kings in the play-in game. That's 9 versus 10. Now, we saw a couple of games played last night. But interestingly, in association with the Mavericks, I don't know what kind of an omen this is, because I happen to live in a city that I think leads the league in bogus, bullshit sports press conferences. Well, we've had three of such monumental proportions that it was so unbelievable what was trying to be fed to the media and through the media, eventually to the fan base, about justifications for moves that seem to be completely absurd. Maybe not completely unjustifiable in every sense, but the way that it was approached made it seem absurd. One example was many, many years ago when Ron Rothstein, who used to be a longtime assistant with Chuck Daly and the Detroit Pistons, he was essentially the man that orchestrated the Pistons' bad boy defense. We've often talked to Ron and said, you must have been a big fan of pro wrestling, because who could have taught Bill Laimbeer that airplane spin, drop to the knee body slam, except the great Bruno Sammartino has relayed his tactics to Laimbeer by one Ron Rothstein. So he becomes a head coach in the NBA, and he gets the expansion Miami Heat. No easy assignment there. You know you're going to be losing a lot of hair, which he did. As I asked Ron Rothstein on a couple of occasions, I said, so what were you thinking when you had to throw like Jim Rowinski into a ball game, late in a ball game, to defend somebody at a critical time? He said, I wasn't thinking anything. I was looking for the exits. But they try to convince us, as welcome Troy West to the program here. And Troy, good to have you join us here, because I know, as usual, I have like electronic pulsations going through your body.
Yeah.
NBA playoffs going into full swing, and then a lot of matchups in the NHL, plus coming off of a Masters high. But I was telling a story about bogus press conferences, because Dallas had their two executives, Nico Harrison, who surprisingly had not had his appearance surgically altered since he made the Luka Doncic deal. And then a guy named Rick Welts is the general manager there. And they had their first press conference that they held since the Luka Doncic deal to help rationalize their decision to get rid of Luka Doncic in the Anthony Davis trade. Which what was your thought about that deal? First of all, I mean, did you think it was absurd? I understand what they were thinking, but at the same time, what the hell were they thinking? I mean, what was your thought about that?
I don't know the exact logistics, but I heard an interesting conspiracy theory of something that went down with ownership and money funding for the new arena and
Yeah,
stuff like that. And they basically said, you know what? Screw it then. We're just going to blow this whole thing up. I could be wrong, but when you think about it, I mean, you look at a guy like Nico Harris, I know he's getting the heat for it. There's, I know he's the general manager, but you look at it and there's just no way that any organization would let a general manager make that sort of decision just blindly, right? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I would think that's one of those ones where it's you're not trading your sixth man or your seventh man. You're trading your and this is a team that a lot of people forget that was in the NBA Finals last year too.
yes,
That's another thing that just kind of gets you going, huh? What is going on here?
it does
Um,
seem absurd. Yeah, that they would have this contention that they just fired him because he was fat. I mean,
Correct,
I traded him
correct.
because he was fat. Yeah, I mean, and you love it. It's almost like that series many years ago that I thought was brilliant, although it was canceled after 1 year because of some animal cruelty issue that popped up at Santa Anita. But the TV show Luck that was on HBO with Dustin Hoffman. I mean, there's more in play there than meets the eye. It couldn't possibly be that they thought this guy was out of shape and he couldn't defend your grandmother, Troy West, to ship Luka Doncic, who had to be just a cash cow, an international superstar. And no matter what, as good of a player as Anthony Davis is, he doesn't give you that in terms of financial revenue stream. So anyway, they were holding this phony press conference, and it reminded me of the time that I was talking about my friend Ron Rothstein, who was a longtime coach in the NBA and still does Heat broadcasts as an analyst in the halftime shows and postgame. And he supposedly was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, which is why he walked into Billy Cunningham and Lucia Fell's office and said, I can't handle this anymore. I want to quit my dream job after working in the NBA for years and years. The guy's still in the NBA. As Spalding etched on his heart. And there's no way that he walked in and quit because thought he was on the edge of a nervous breakdown. So, and they try to profess this to the people, much like these guys last night did with the Dallas Mavericks, trying to pretend that they had a real fundamental reason for trading Luka Doncic. It seemed kind of absurd. All right, how you hitting them? End of the regular season, it got kind of dicey. I mean, certain teams are in it, certain teams are not. You don't know what they're playing for, and we have an aberration situation tonight in the National Hockey League where if Montreal loses, and I don't know that Columbus would be aware of this result during their game, but you may have, and I don't know what the over-under is on this game, but it'd be interesting to look at because you might have a situation where Columbus needs to win in regulation if Montreal loses to qualify for the Stanley Cup playoffs. So if they were in a tie game late in the game, they would actually have to pull their goalie, even though the game would be tied. So I don't know. I'm having a funny feeling about that the situation will occur and that somebody's going to feel like they had a knife driven through their back that had the over-under. and so an empty net goal going against a team that was about to send this game into overtime.
I'm with you. Yeah, no, I was looking at that one yesterday. I'm with you. A lot of crazy. Those are the ones. It's kind of you do want to bet it just to see and have some investment in it. It makes it a lot of fun. But I think you probably have to stay away from that one. And I at least for right now, for me with hockey, I'll give you an example. Last night, my beloved, I say that sarcastically, beloved Seattle Kraken, were playing a meaningless final home game, and you're probably right. You probably go with the over, but the Kings were just laying -110. They had nothing to play for. They're on the road against the Kraken, and the Kings at one point were up 6-2. They end up winning that game 6-5. So over would have been the play, but it's just like, wait, what? This is a team that was playing their backup squad, getting ready for the playoffs. Kraken had nothing to play for. It's tough when there's really not a lot going on and nothing to play for.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't know what the motivation is. You'll see teams. Well, I mean, if you looked at the New York Knicks in their game where they rested all of their starters except Mikal Bridges, who went out there and had to keep a consecutive game streak alive. So they sent him out there for 6 seconds. He fouled somebody like he was Mike Reardon back in the day, and went right back to the bench. And that was it. Start the ball game. So. Yeah, incentive is a big thing, but there is plenty of incentive tonight. Troy West in the NBA, as I don't know if you want to start there. And I was looking at some of the series odds, thinking, oh, okay, I mean, who's worth a shot here? The wise guys are all over the Clippers. I guess they're favored in their series slightly over the Denver Nuggets, even though Denver has the home court advantage for the series. The Clips, number 5 seed in there, suddenly got red hot at the end of the regular season and started to look like a team. All of the wise guys were jumping on. But tonight you have the Miami Heat in action, and they're taking on the Chicago Bulls, plus 1.5 with the Heat. What do you think?
I lean slightly with the Bulls. I mean, it's amazing to think that we're talking about a play-in game with a team that's 8 games below 500, and the Miami Heat and the
Yeah.
Bulls 4 games below 500. I mean, that's just that's something you got to look in the mirror. If you're Adam Silverman and look at that and go Adam Silver and look at it and go, come on, what are we doing here? Um, I lean with the Bulls just because they are at home. They're in the United Center. That's a team that's still got a little bit of talent. Spoelstra, obviously, the much better coach in that game. But if you're the Miami Heat, what are you really getting up for in this game? I would side with the Bulls here.
Heat pride, and it had to sicken Pat Riley to see playoff Jimmy show up last night as Jimmy Butler, who had been
Yeah.
putting up for all the acclaim that he was getting as being the component that cemented Golden State's chances of even making it all the way to the NBA Finals, which seemed like a long shot. But the record certainly is distinguished since Jimmy Butler's been with him. But he was putting up relatively pedestrian numbers. I mean, not much more differential than Andrew Wiggins, maybe a better overall floor game and getting to the stripe more, which was something that Golden State wasn't very adept at. But here you have Butler going for 38 last night. Steph Curry goes for 37, and everybody's dancing in the streets where they were going to be dancing on the grave of Kendrick Perkins, who keeps foisting through ESPN the Golden State as a contender. I don't know. Did you take anything away from that game except for the fact that now Golden State gets to go into a matchup that doesn't seem nearly as imposing as possibly going against Oklahoma City in the first round? They draw the Houston Rockets, who were a distant second in the West and part of that, not quite part of that whole pack that was going 3 through 8, but nonetheless, seems like a favorable draw for Golden State the way things shook out.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's just amazing, kind of what we talked about. I mean, playoff Jimmy. It's like the guy just coasts in the regular season. I tell people, records, everything, you've got to just throw it out when it comes to the playoffs. I mean, you just do. I mean, Steph Curry takes it up a notch. Defenses, step it up a notch. Coaches step it up a notch. I mean, it's like a guy like Steve Kerr. Here's a guy that's won multiple championships. Seems to just coast in the regular season. Then all of a sudden playoff time and he brings out his best. So doesn't surprise me. That's going to be a great series. I'm looking at it game one Sunday night. Looks like the Warriors are actually just a 1.5 point dog, which means they're definitely going to be favored in that series. Um, so it will be interesting if they can make a run. I mean, but don't sleep on the Rockets. That's a good, solid, hungry basketball team right now.
All right. Well, what do we make of this Dallas Sacramento game? I would have to say that the Kings are a team. I mean, I understand, that they went through their turmoil early in the season there, but that I couldn't. They're kind of nondescript here on the East Coast. You don't see a lot of Sacramento Kings games being featured on national telecasts. At least I can't recall seeing a lot of them. Thought they probably would be a little bit better this year. Dallas, of course, with the Doncic trade and all of the. I mean, it almost seems like a Watergate cover up where they just don't want to say this was all about a casino, which I believe there's a lot of merit to that story. It seems fairly clear cut as you look at some of the excuses that are being made. Dallas plus 4.5 tonight. The Mavericks, as you said, in the finals last year with Luka. Anthony Davis, since he's come back, he's been okay. What do you think? Are they worth a shot with the 4.5 points on the road against the Sacramento Kings?
I'm leaning Kings on this. I just think the Mavericks got way too much crap going on to pull out a big win. And I don't know if they want to extend their season just to get swept by Oklahoma City next week. Sacramento's an interesting story. You got Doug Christie. I don't know if he's coaching for his life tonight. I don't, that's an interesting story. Obviously comes in as the interim. I think if he, somehow gets a win tonight and then finds a way to make the Oklahoma City, make that series interesting, maybe he's got a job next year. But Zach Levine's played a lot better. I mean, you look at the other night, him and DeRozan put up a combined damn near 70 points. These guys could make a little bit of noise, probably not just because of the drawing that they're going to get, but I like the Kings tonight at home to get the job done.
All right, so we're going to lay 4 and a hook with the Sacramento Kings, Troy West, on the baskets tonight. All right, I've thrown a few things out there. Do you have anything specific that you want to turn the people on to, Troy West, that we can make some money on and bury a bookie tonight?
Yeah, I got burned by this line yesterday. I won't get burned by it twice. I'm going to go back to it. The Mariners and the Reds go off tonight, 3:40 p.m. Pacific time. Cincinnati, man, that great American ballpark is the great American hitting ballpark. They put up 12 runs last night. The total set at 9. I'm going under. Bryce Miller versus Martinez. Bryce Miller's, he's 0-2 to start the year, but the guy's been solid. Nick Martinez, again, he's also 0-2. Nine's too many. Both these lineups aren't very good. I'll grab the under 9, even though it's in the great American hitting ballpark. Give me the under 9 in that game. And then also sticking in baseball. Took these guys again yesterday, taking them again today. Give me the Houston Astros against the St. Louis Cardinals. You got Blanco on the bump against Steven Matz. Astros get the shutout win yesterday. They look solid. Hunter Brown was on the bump. I like them to get. They're 8-9 right now, 4-4 on the road. I like this Houston team to get hot. Give me the Astros tonight in baseball.
All right, I love it every second, and you will be no doubt. I mean, wagering on some of these series in the National Hockey League. I know the one here in the state of Florida. It's interesting. We've been talking about this. There really are no in-state pro rivalries here, even though we have multiple teams in virtually all of the sports. Yeah, and all
That's
four
amazing.
professional sports. But like nobody gives a flying one if the Heat are playing the Magic. In fact, that probably is one of those games that you can buy tickets for under face value for when you run down to the arena. Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, and the Miami Dolphins don't really have any kind of emotionally fired and inspired rivalry. If you're looking at baseball, nobody cares about either team, the Tampa Bay Rays or the Marlins, in terms of fan base. But the one in-state rivalry that seems significant is Tampa Bay and the Florida Panthers. They hate each other I don't know. I mean, like if they could, they would be chopping each other's heads off, with sticks. They just there's a level of animosity there that is the kind of thing that sparks a great rivalry. What do you make of that series? Have you looked at that? Because the Cats, surprisingly, not surprisingly, I guess, are defending Stanley Cup champs. I believe they're the second choice to the Stars to win it all. And then it starts to, the odds really start to escalate into double figures after those two teams, making for some interesting props in terms of who wins the cup outright. I don't know. Do you have a thought on that series and on the ultimate Stanley Cup champion?
Not a thoughts on that series. The Stanley Cup. I was talking. This is the NHL's got a lot of great parity this year. Much like much less than the NBA. The NBA, you've got arguably three teams that's going to win it. I mean, you could bet you bet your ass that it's going to be Oklahoma City, the Celtics, or the Cavaliers, in my opinion. In the NHL, you got several teams. I am leaning right now with either the Dallas Stars or the Vegas Knights. I just think they're going in hot. They're going in with good goal play. It will be interesting to see what the Jets can do, but I mean, right now for me, like you said, I mean, I'm not ruling out the Panthers. I want to see what the Maple Leafs can do. I mean, can they get out of the first round? Um, Ovechkin and the Capitals, they're a fun story. I mean, what can they do? The Jets, to me, obviously going in probably the best team in hockey, but do they have enough depth to keep it going?
They're being
A lot of
ignored
great.
by the odds makers. Really
They
ignored.
really are. They're being
Yeah.
ignored. So we're in for some great hockey. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, the President's Cup winner for having the most points during the regular season traditionally bombs out, flames out in the postseason. So, and even when the Panthers lost to the Vegas Golden Knights 2 years ago, they were the President's Cup winner and had the most points in a regular season and ended up not winning the championship. I think that's like an ongoing trend, but we shall see. But I was surprised to see Dallas as the overall favorite at 6-1, and then drafting right in behind them was Florida at like plus 650. And then you could go up to like 10-1 and 14-1 or 12-1 for teams that you think are in there and maybe even more qualified from based on their regular season play to be considered the favorites for the championship. But no, that'll be a lot of fun, and it's knockdown brawls from the very first time they dropped the
It
puck.
is.
Number one of the opening series. There's no coast job like there is in the NBA when whoever wins the play-in gets to play the Cavs or the Celtics, and you're thinking, okay, that'll be lucky to go five. Maybe it goes five because the players want to have one more visit to the visiting city, the underdog city. All right, Troy wins. You've been winning. Are you still on that ridiculous ratio of winning game after game?
It's been really, really good. Last couple nights, we break even, which breaking even in gambling's a win, right?
Somewhat,
So
yes.
no, but we're the overall body of work over the last 60, 90 days has been really, really solid. So come take a look, get to the Instagram. It's Troy West. We're giving you a free week on the Instagram. The website is troywins.com. One-stop shop in this industry. I really, really believe that. We had a great Masters weekend, and we're really looking forward to these playoffs.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much, Troy. Always a pleasure. Thanks for getting up with us on the West Coast there. I know you have a busy morning schedule, and
No
we
problem.
greatly appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for being with us. Troy West,
Thank
ladies
you,
and gentlemen,
Defo.
with us here on the program. All right, hopefully you guys will catch some winners, courtesy of Troy West. He gave you the under Seattle and Cincinnati. What a degenerate, man. Betting, is that like an afternoon baseball game? Not even sure. You would imagine not on a Wednesday. And Stroh's Cardinals, he likes the Stros in that one in the baskets. Although I don't know if he was making these part of his official playlist here, but he liked both of the home teams, both of the favorites. Bulls laying 1 on a hook against the Miami Heat. Sacramento laying 4 on a hook against the Dallas Mavericks. A couple of interesting things. Detroit Pistons Knicks series plus 325. You're getting on the Pistons. It almost rolls off your tongue, though, to think Knicks in 6 if it even goes that far. Early round series in the NBA, but that would be somewhat of a surprise. And yet, is it enough of a surprise at plus 325 for you to go out there and back it? That's a pretty hefty price. The odds makers are obviously encouraging you to bet Detroit, which you're thinking Knicks, what, too experienced for the Detroit Pistons, young team on the come. They tripled their win total from a year ago. That was remarkable. If you had bet, I would imagine, I don't know what their over-under total was for the season, but it couldn't have been much as they won 14 games last year. I was belly aching at, if you're betting on things that people vote on, there's a good chance that you're going to get smacked in the face and end up getting tagged with a loss, as was the case with my recommendation that J.B. Bickerstaff was a good play at plus 900, 9-1 to be coach of the year. I don't even know if he's under consideration, and that's a blatant injustice. As look, Atkinson, great job with the Cavaliers. He's probably going to win it. He was an overwhelming favorite. No romance in that, as you guys know. But I mean, how do you deny this guy who tripled the win total with no real significant changes with the Detroit Pistons, except the evolution of some of their younger players and integrating a very small differential from the team that was 14 and what would that be? 14 and 68 last year, an atrocity. But tall assignment here, literally, with Karl Anthony Towns in the lineup for the New York Knicks, and the fact that they're a little bit more battle tested, you would have to say. So interesting, but plus 325 on the Pistons. And the Clippers favored over the Denver Nuggets. Kind of interesting. Nuggets, a little turmoil there at the end of the regular season. They fire Malone, a general manager, but he's gonzo too. And they have an interim coach, but seem to be the players acclimated to that. Can the Clippers get acclimated to that mile-high rare air and pull off the upset? Well, they wouldn't be pulling off the upset. They're minus 115. You get you play 105 to 100 on Denver in the series. Very interesting. The Clippers favored there over the 4-seeded Denver Nuggets. All right, we're going to get out of here. You guys have a great day. We'll do it again tomorrow. Mike Jones scheduled to join us on the program. And then the professor on fire, I believe he went undefeated on Australian rules football, will probably be the only handicapping show or anything related to betting that brings you that. And on top of that, comes up with winners. So I look forward to the professor and his appearance here on Friday. Tough beat still. I don't know. We may not be able to bring it up with him. The fact that he had Justin Rose at 120 to 1 to win the Masters. You're right there. It's the kind of thing that would make you just immediately enroll in some kind of a counseling program so that you never made another wager again. All right. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jeff DeForrest for Troy West. We'll see you next time, the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.